Million-dollar paychecks, roaring fans, and NBA dreams gone in a flash. One moment, they were rising stars. The next, headlines read, suspended, arrested, and murder. Javaris Crittenton never played another NBA game after a locker room gun standoff. Gilbert Arenas lost over $7.5 million and became a league exile. Keith Appling. He's doing 18 to 40 years in prison for second-degree murder. How do three promising careers collapse under the weight of ego, bad decisions, and real violence? What really went down, and how did it spiral this far? Hit that like button, subscribe for more untold NBA stories, and let's get into the details. It's wild how a single card game worth $1,100 ended up nuking millions in NBA salaries and derailing an entire team's season. On a Wizards team flight in 2009, Javaris Crittenton was already fuming over a losing streak when Gilbert Arenas, sensing blood in the water, jumped into the game late. Trash talk turned toxic. "I'll burn your car with you in it," Arenas said. Crittenton shot back, "I'll just shoot you then." In what Arenas later called a joke, he brought 4 unloaded guns to the locker room, calling Crittenton's bluff. Crittenton didn't think it was funny. He responded by pulling out a loaded gun and pointing it at Arenas. Just like that, everything spiraled. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Arenas lost $7.5 million in salary. Crittenton gave up $670,000 and never played in the NBA again. Arenas was shipped off to Orlando. The Wizards imploded, finishing 26 to 56. Their stars were gutted. Karen Butler went to Dallas, Antawn Jamison to Cleveland. The incident didn't just end 2 careers, it detonated a roster. The NBA tried to scrub the image, but damage was done. This wasn't just about gambling or locker room heat. This was about how quickly ego and bravado can sabotage everything. But the fall didn't stop at suspensions. Crittenton's story took an even darker turn. Javaris Crittenton's NBA career didn't end with a final buzzer. It ended in chaos. Once a promising first-round pick, Crittenton was drafted by the Lakers in 2007 and bounced between 3 teams. But talent couldn't outpace trouble. After the infamous locker room gun standoff with Gilbert Arenas, Crittenton was suspended and never played another NBA game. At just 22 years old, his basketball career was over. But the real fall came years later. By 2011, Crittenton was back in Atlanta and caught in gang activity. That August, in a misguided attempt to retaliate for a robbery, he opened fire on a rival gang member. Instead, he killed 22-year-old Julian Jones, an innocent mother of 4, in a drive-by shooting. The tragedy sent shockwaves far beyond the sports world. In 2015, he pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault, earning a 23-year prison sentence. This wasn't just a fall from grace, it was a complete derailment. Crittenton's story isn't about one bad decision, it's about a pattern of unchecked behavior and a lack of structure once the NBA doors shut. No team, no contract, no amount of talent could save him from himself. He's now serving time in prison, the NBA long behind him. The gun that once appeared in a locker room as a bluff became a real weapon that ended a life and a future. Arenas may have walked away from that locker room too, but his road took a very different turn. Gilbert Arenas was once the face of the Washington Wizards, dropping 50-point games and leading the team to the playoffs. But after the gun incident, he became the face of what happens when cockiness turns into career suicide. Arenas lost millions in salary, his leadership role, and eventually his spot in the league. The Wizards traded him to the Orlando Magic the next season, where his numbers tanked. Once a 29-point-per-game scorer, he barely cracked 8. By 2012, he was out of the NBA entirely, but Arenas didn't vanish, he just pivoted. He became a media personality, known for unfiltered takes and wild stories on platforms like the Action Network and his own podcast. He leaned into his reputation, spinning the gun incident as a joke gone wrong, a failed attempt to call Crittenton's bluff. But while the media ate it up, NBA front offices weren't laughing. He was still radioactive. Arenas' story is different from Crittenton's, but not by much. Both lost the league, both lost millions. But Arenas managed to rebrand, even if the shadow of that locker room moment never left him. He never returned to all-star form, but he stayed visible, if not respected. Still, it's a long way down from Agent Zero to podcast provocateur. But not every player's downfall made headlines. Some collapsed in near silence, like Keith Appling. Keith Appling had a different route to the NBA, but the potential was just as real. Michigan State stands out. Top 10 in school history for points, starts, and games played. He didn't light up the pros like Arenas, but he made it to the league in 2016 with the Orlando Magic, bounced around the G League, and even played overseas. Respectable hustle. But trouble followed him off the court. By 2021, Appling was in Detroit, arguing with 66-year-old Clyde Edmonds, his relative, over a handgun. According to prosecutors, that argument ended with Appling pulling the trigger multiple times and killing Edmonds on the front lawn. He fled the scene with help from his girlfriend, Natalie Bannister, who later lied to investigators. The stats here are chilling. 1 NBA player, 1 murder charge, 1 66-year-old man died. Appling took a plea deal, 18 to 40 years in prison for second-degree murder, plus 2 years for firearm possession. He's now serving time in the Michigan Department of Corrections. Bannister got 18 months probation for lying to police. Appling's name never got as big as Arenas's, but his fall might be even more painful. He didn't have a $60 million contract. He had raw talent and a work ethic that earned him a shot. That shot ended in blood. Still, Appling wasn't the first and won't be the last. The league has seen this pattern before. What happens when the cameras stop flashing and the paychecks dry up? For some players, especially those already living on the edge, life after the NBA becomes a minefield. Arenas, Crittenton, and Appling are cautionary tales, but they're not anomalies. Let's talk numbers. The average NBA career lasts 4.5 years. The average NBA player retires before age 30. That means if you don't plan, if you don't evolve, you're vulnerable to financial ruin, bad decisions, or worse. Gilbert Arenas at least found a second act in the media, but Crittenton and Appling? They went from hardwood to handcuffs. The NBA has ramped up support programs, rookie transition programs, mental health awareness, and financial planning. But for some, it's not enough, especially when the fame fades and the structure disappears. The common thread: unresolved conflict, unchecked egos, and guns. Always guns. So what's next for them? Crittenton is serving 23 years. He may not see the outside world until middle age. Appling is in for at least 18. Arenas? He's podcasting, giving hot takes, and trying to rewrite his legacy. Next time you hear a player's name drop out of the league, ask yourself, did they walk away, or did something drag them under? From locker room threats to deadly street violence, we saw how quickly fame fades when players lose control. Crittenton is serving decades behind bars. Arenas became a cautionary tale wrapped in a media mask. And Appling, once an MSU standout, is now a convicted killer. It's a sobering reminder that talent means nothing without guidance, and fame can't shield anyone from consequences. Does the NBA do enough to protect young players from self-destruction? And how much blame falls on the league versus the player? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild NBA stories.